morning of the 2nd of September, 1939. The sky over the Polish city of Kolo darkens with the deafening roar of German planes. A train packed with civilian refugees, evacuated from the border towns of Jarocin and Krotoshin, is stopped at the railroad station. Without warning, bombs fall like a rain of fire, exploding car after car. Screams of panic echo as the air fills with thick smoke and the metallic smell of blood mixed with the acrid gunpowder. The ground shakes violently, as if the earth is splitting apart, and the survivors, wounded and terrified, see the chaos of scattered bodies, flaming wreckage, and torn limbs. 111 innocent souls lose their lives in this brutal attack, a grim reminder that war does not distinguish between soldiers and civilians. The trembling hands of rescuers dig through twisted metals, feeling the heat of nearby flames and the sticky cold of coagulated blood, while the wind carries the distant wail of orphaned children, mixed with the persistent crackle of fire consuming wood and fabric. While the German army advances with roaring tanks and infantry marching in tight formation, Hitler is already planning beyond mere territorial conquest. His goal is not just to recover lands lost in 1918, but to completely subjugate the Polish nation to Nazi rule, turning the country into a vassal territory. To this end, he dispatches 3 SS regiments, adorned with the skull insignia, the feared Totenkopf units, to follow the front troops and impose police and security measures in the rear, eliminating any resistance. On the first day of the war, Theodor Eicke, the commander of these regiments, gathers his officers at the Oranienburg concentration camp. With a cold and implacable voice, he explains that, to protect the Third Reich, they must incarcerate or annihilate all enemies of Nazism. This task demands absolute and inflexible severity, forged in the concentration camps, where they learn to suppress any trace of humanity, with the air heavy with the damp scent of earth soaked by recent rain, and the oppressive silence broken only by the distant echo of shouted orders and the creak of boots on muddy ground. On the trains carrying German troops eastward, hateful slogans are painted on the rusted cars. One of them proclaims, "We're going to Poland to smash the Jews," premonitory words that reveal the anti-Semitic venom pulsing in the heart of the Nazi regime, echoing like a dark mantra among the soldiers who laugh and smoke, inhaling the acrid smell of tobacco mixed with machine oil. It won't be just the Jews, but all Poles who will suffer in this shadow war behind the battlefront, a parallel campaign of terror. 2 days after Eicke's instructions, Heinrich Himmler tasks General Udo von Woyrsch with radically suppressing any Polish insurrection in the newly occupied zones of Upper Silesia. The word radical is a euphemism for merciless, meaning mass executions and total destruction without mercy. Entire villages are burned and reduced to ashes, like in Truskolasy, where fire devours centuries-old wooden houses. The air fills with piercing screams of pain, and the smell of burning flesh mixes with the voracious crackling of flames and the snap of collapsing roofs. Men, women, and children are dragged from their warm homes, lined up against cold and damp walls, and shot without pity, with the dry sound of gunfire reverberating through the hills, and the soil becoming soaked with hot blood that flows like red streams. Meanwhile, the German invasion proceeds with unrelenting fury. On the second day, Wehrmacht forces advance through western Poland, crossing raging rivers and vast plains with Panzer tanks that crush everything in their path, making the ground vibrate like a constant earthquake and raising clouds of dust that irritate the eyes and throats of the soldiers. The Luftwaffe dominates the gray skies, bombing Polish positions and defenseless cities, causing widespread panic with the threatening hum of engines and the whistle of falling bombs. In other areas, such as near Danzig, German troops consolidate their positions, while the Poles attempt to reorganize desperate defenses in makeshift trenches. Polish soldiers, entrenched in damp and dark bunkers, feel the cold metal of their weapons against sweaty and sticky skin, sweat running down their backs like drops of fear, and the incessant noise of distant explosions that make the concrete walls tremble and crack. Some Polish planes manage to shoot down German bombers in fierce aerial combats, but the overwhelming number of invaders makes the resistance heroic yet futile, with the smell of burning fuel filling the air after the flaming crashes. In the rear, SS units begin their sinister work, arresting intellectuals, clergy, and Jews in actions that foreshadow the coming horror, dragging them into creaking trucks under the pale moonlight. Camps like Stutthof are hastily established near Danzig, where prisoners are crammed into cold and precarious barracks. The air loaded with salty humidity from the Baltic Sea and the smell of fear and despair, with the constant sound of waves crashing on the shore mixed with muffled moans and dry coughs. Chaos spreads along the clogged roads of refugees, fleeing with scarce belongings in creaking and slow carts. The dust raised by fleeing feet mixes with the smoke of distant fires, creating a dense haze that irritates red eyes and dry throats. Children cry in the arms of exhausted and emaciated mothers, while the roar of German engines approaches like a constant threat, making the air pulse with mechanical vibrations and the accelerated heart beat like a muffled drum. In cities like Kolo, the bombing survivors dig through the wreckage for loved ones, hands cut by twisted and sharp metals, hearts broken by irreparable loss, feeling the residual heat of explosions and the persistent smell of burned rubber and melted plastic. This invasion is not just military, it's a campaign of total subjugation, where the SS acts as the executing arm of Nazi hatred, with patrols scouring villages at dawn. Himmler's orders echo in the minds of SS commanders like von Woyrsch, who see Poles not as humans, but as obstacles to be eliminated without remorse. In villages of Upper Silesia, SS patrols invade homes at daybreak, kicking in old and rotten wooden doors, the sound of cracking wood echoing in the cold, damp morning air, and dragging sleepy residents to summary executions under the still-starred sky. The sound of shots echoes through the green hills, and the silence that follows is more terrifying than any explosion, leaving a palpable void in the air impregnated with cordite. As the sun sets on this second day of war, Poland feels the weight of the darkness descending like a shroud. The events in Kolo and the initial SS actions signal that this is not a conventional war, but one of systematic annihilation. Soldiers on the front line, exhausted and covered in sticky mud, reflect on the uncertain future, knowing that every hour brings more pain and destruction, with the smell of damp earth and sweat impregnating their torn uniforms. For civilians, the terror is palpable, the air loaded with uncertainty and the smell of burning that permeates clothes and memories forever. This day marks the beginning of a nightmare that will engulf millions, but also awakens a fierce determination to resist among the oppressed. While the world watches, Great Britain and France prepare their responses, but for the Poles, hell has already begun. As we delve deeper into these harrowing moments of history, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next day in this tragic journey. If this episode moved you, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you make of these dark events?